welcome to the Freedom Driven Landscaper podcast brought to you by the Lucrative Landscaping book. Thanks so much for joining us today. Would you please tell me a little bit about yourself and your work?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, my name's David Munsey. We're in Little Rock, Arkansas, and we're in the outdoor living and landscape design, build, and maintenance business. We do everything from mowing, edging, and blowing to we have a design build side of our business. We're doing everything from irrigation and lighting all the way up to full blown pools, outdoor living spaces, hardscape, retaining walls, everything that goes along with the full complete space.
Yeah, and
Uh,
you guys, I've looked at your website. Your work is you do some serious work. It's really nice stuff. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, we're actually in the process of getting our website kind of cleaned up and updated. There's, believe it or not very many updated photos on the website. Most of it's on Instagram,
Hmm.
but
Yeah, I looked there
yeah,
too. Actually, yeah, no, really
yeah,
impressive. Yeah, really nice work.
appreciate
Yes,
it. Yeah, we got a great team and a bunch of stuff going on all the time. So
right. And then how did you get into it? Is you're the manager of this business, the general manager is what I understand.
yeah, so we're a family-owned business. So my dad started the business about 20 years ago,
Okay.
and I actually went to school at the University of Arkansas and got a degree in horticulture and turf management, and was going into the golf course industry and did for 10 years. I was a golf course superintendent, assistant superintendent, and was, heavily focused on, golf course maintenance and construction. And then from there, my dad was running our business here that was at the time solely property maintenance. So he was just doing property maintenance. And then there was steadily more and more requests for landscape installs, weed and feed, and different things, irrigation repairs and stuff that we were doing on the golf course. And so it just worked out to move back to Little Rock, which really, 3 hours away is where University of Arkansas, where I was working. So moved back here, gosh, I guess that was 2011, somewhere
Okay.
right around there.
Yeah.
Um, and kind of started the landscape side of the business, doing installs, would has slowly evolved into some really, really large scale projects, especially in the
Right.
last 4 years, I would say.
Yeah. So the company's grown a lot since you've come back and joined in. Yeah.
Yeah, there was 6 employees when I joined in.
Okay. Wow. And how many are you at now around?
Fully staffed would be like 32.
Okay. Wow. That's amazing. So
Yeah.
the podcast is about freedom and growth, and it's kind of this idea of not just building a business that becomes a jail cell or something like that. A lot of guys
Yeah.
kind of back themselves into corners with this. So it'd be kind of neat to hear about your journey through that growth, because I know so many guys, what happens is they'll start to build and then things kind of get overwhelming and then they sort of plateau and then it gets really hard. A lot of guys will
Oh,
spend
yeah.
20 years, stuck at a certain level and just not able to get past that. What plateaus have you guys hit along the way, and how have you gotten past those?
Man, that's a great question. And I've got a lot of answers to that.
Okay, let's
And
dig
some of
in.
them that I know the answers to that, like, I'm still not doing,
Yeah,
like, I know we need to be doing this. It's
right?
like, one of those things like you're your own worst enemy. But,
Mm,
I would say initially, when I came back, we were just starting that side of the business. And it was a dig your heels in, like, just like any of us that start a business or, are going to ramp up a new side of your business. Like, it's full tilt ahead, dig spurs in, like, let's go. And
right.
you're in the field working, you're quoting, you're, chief everything officer. And I think there's a time when you've got to do that to ramp up and and get to like whatever your goal is. And so I remember back in however many years ago that was, like, I'm gonna get to, we'll hit the $1 million mark in gross sales.
Yeah.
And a lot of people you'll hear say, like, you hit the $1 million mark, like that's kind of you've kind of benchmarked that threshold and kind of a game changer. You need to implement some different things. You've got a certain amount of employees. Um, I think where it gets hard once you hit that is go from like, you go from 1 to 3 in gross sales as just kind of a general benchmark. The things that you take on and do is not always necessarily your ideal customer, your ideal job. And I think that's what you got to be careful about, that when you start getting bogged down in the businesses and when you're working harder to finish a job than you should, or to bid a job, or whatever the situation is, because it's not a natural fit for you or your business. And I think it's very easy to you kind of get to that, the $1 million mark or whatever that is for whatever size business and industry. Um, Work is coming at you at that point. You're the size business that the word's gotten out. You have a reputation, obviously. And so stuff is coming at you faster than you can do it. And it's a lot easier to say, yeah, yeah, we can do it. Yeah, we can do it. Yeah, we can do it. Yeah, we can do it.
Yeah.
And you really can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so,
A
so
lot
I
of
think
guys
that's
don't.
a big,
I think a lot of guys hit that before they get to a million. Like, would you say that? Would you advise
oh,
somebody
yeah.
to take on anything they can up until a million and then be more picky, or what do you think?
I think everybody's got their own thresholds. Like every individual, I think you can handle, like I can handle a lot.
Mm.
Like
Yeah,
I can handle a lot, like just personally.
from practice.
But I think there's a lot of people that, yeah, but there's a lot of people that like, man, you give somebody two or three things to manage, like they're massively overwhelmed. So I think for that individual, that might be $400,000 a year
Right.
or 500,000. I think that's market dependent and scope of
Y-
work dependent.
Yeah, maintenance
There's a
versus
lot of
installation,
factors.
big difference.
Sure.
But so just to dig into that, because I have a lot of guys. Obviously, there's many, many more guys trying to get to a million than trying to get past there, and I want to talk about past there
Sure.
as well. But to get to there, um, for you as a manager, for you as an owner, what would you say were the skills that you had to learn? Because when you say that you can handle a lot, what's the difference between you and somebody who can't?
Um, I operate and function I just in the self-awareness space, like outside of business, like I just try to be self-aware in all aspects of life. But like being self-aware, like I know that I can take on more than whoever. Some of my friends, I mean, I can handle more than my wife can. She just gets overwhelmed quicker. She does a
Just
lot of things better
naturally?
than me, just naturally.
Okay.
Like when I get stuff thrown at me, high stress, under pressure, like I go here where a lot of people go here. Like a lot of
Interesting.
people fold, it energizes me
Right.
to
Okay.
be in that point. So I think that, everybody has to just kind of be aware of what they can handle.
Hmm.
Because if you don't know what you can handle, I think you can very easily just get in the weeds. And the
Yeah.
biggest thing for me and kind of getting to that point is learning to delegate. Because when you know you can handle a lot more, you tend to try to, even
Mhm.
though it's technically not the best thing for the business.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can relate to that. A lot of what I do with my clients is like we'll come in to help a company grow, and then quickly it turns into not being so much about systems and processes. It's a lot of that, but it'll come down to the owner's ability to stay on top of things. And some
Yeah.
guys I'll see they're answering their phone 24 hours a day and things like this. And what we'll do is we'll actually stop running the ads at 5 p.m. and we'll make the phone stop ringing like automatically. After a certain time, we'll route the calls somewhere else just to give the owner a little bit more breathing room so that when they come back to work the next day, they're back in the game.
Yeah.
I I hear that you do it naturally, but I'd be willing to bet if I followed you around for a while, I'd see some habits that you have that could be copied that would help other people to handle a
Oh,
bit
yeah.
more. Are there any that come to mind? Like, do you meditate or any of these, or do you go in? Are you part of a fight club or something? Or
And now I wish. I wish I need to work out. I haven't in years. um, Man, for me, like the biggest thing is I try to not get behind.
Okay.
Like stick to a schedule and not get behind. Um, and I think I've noticed I've done it in the past. Like if I look up and I've got like 60 unread text messages, 40 emails, like you just you're not going to catch up and you're not going to feel like you're on top of things, even though you
Mm.
technically may be in your customer's eyes, or your team's eyes. You're not. You're just like trying to drag them from behind
Right.
slowly.
Yeah. You're kind of, I see what
Uh,
you mean. Yeah.
but in the past, when I was kind of getting the business going and we were ramping up, we were working really hard. Uh, it was 24/7
Mm,
all weekend.
mhm.
I have, especially since I've had kids, but since I've been married, I mean, the last 5 or 6 years, like, I shut it off.
Mm,
I shut it off 5 o'clock.
right.
Like, I mean, there's again, self-awareness, like, you're in the middle of a project with a customer, the customer calls you 3 times in a row at 6:30, like, okay, something's probably wrong, like, just answer it or
Sure.
quickly respond. I mean, uh,
Yeah.
but, weekends, like,
So
or 5
looking
days a
back,
week.
do you think that you had to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to get to where you are? Or if you had started to shut it off the way you do now, do you think you may have got there faster? Or what do you think about that?
I think I might've got there more profitable.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, good answer.
Yeah. Not necessarily faster, but I think the path along the way would have been more profitable.
Mm. And that's something I'm really interested in. How do you I I'm trying I don't wanna lead you too much with these questions to some of these
No,
points
you're
that
good.
that I like to make. But, but when you think about profitability in the business, how much does that affect it's an obvious question that more profitability and better margins are gonna make the company easier to grow. But I think some people see it as sort of greed, and they don't realize how much those margins really impact the ability to build a business. Like, do you care to share any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's critical. I mean, very critical. Thinking back, I was trying to think of some good examples. I don't if you've been in business long enough or gonna be in business long enough, you're gonna lose your socks on the job. Like, it's just gonna happen. Like, something's gonna happen. If anybody out there wants to, or I will sit down and argue that all day long. You can't tell me you've been in business for 30 years and never lost on a job. Like, it's just
Definitely.
gonna happen.
Yeah.
And so I think minimizing that
Mm,
is key. Uh, but yeah, if you don't have profitability, man, I mean, I can think back in times when we were growing, we're like the target profitability numbers not there, and something's dragging out, bills are due, payrolls due. I mean,
yeah,
you're
real
looking at
problems.
the next option, like, man, okay, we're gonna borrow some money to hit payroll, or are we gonna, borrow to hit this bill because we hadn't got paid from here because this has happened, and so you're grabbing. Whereas if you've been slowly profitable and hitting that net number, your target all the way along the way, you got this little more of a nest egg over here
Mm,
that you can use to help grow the business.
right. Yeah, I see what you
Um,
mean.
but I think too, like it plays a toll, I think mentally. Like
Yes.
if you're not profitable, I think mentally you're going to struggle in running your business
Yeah,
because you're
definitely.
constantly thinking,
Yeah. Well, I remember years where I would be thinking about it, but avoiding even checking the numbers, where
yep,
you're like,
yep.
it's so
You're
stressful
like,
that
I
you
know
don't
that
want to
looked
look.
good. I don't want to see it.
Yeah. Oh, there's one or two times I can remember where I finally sat down to the numbers and just want to throw up.
Yep.
Not a
Been
good
there.
place. Yeah. Yeah.
Been there.
So that's interestingly the theme that's coming through in this call is this idea of staying ahead on these things, right? You mentioned that a couple times. So
Yeah.
staying ahead on profitability, staying ahead on the tasks, staying ahead on all of these things. Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. As opposed to being I guess it's sort of being active rather than reactive. If you're
Yep.
running around just like reacting to what's happening every day, that's not a good place to be. I like to make the argument that the quality of the work that's coming in is what makes the biggest difference there. Do you disagree or agree or
No, I don't disagree. Like, one of my heavy focuses, and I mean, we talk about profitability and yeah, I mean, we're in business to make a profit, plain and simple. Like, at the end of the day, like, the end desire is to make a profit.
it gets
Like, if you
fuzzy
don't make a
because
profit, you're,
yeah, it just gets fuzzy because profit could be a nebulous sort of number, right? Is it like profit doesn't necessarily mean take home pay depending on how you're doing the books. So sometimes I think a lot of people see, especially people maybe under $1 million, they'll see profit as being sort of almost like the greed metric. Like if you have money
oh,
left over
yeah.
at the end of the day, you must be greedy, right? Because you're taking more than you need. But no, not the
No,
case.
heck no. And I used to struggle with that. I mean,
Right.
seriously, like, I've been there. Like, I get that thought process.
Mm,
And, I always look back, I'm like, man, you walk in to Walmart, buy your groceries or Kroger or wherever, like, And I
Yeah.
don't feel sorry for marking up the old Twinkie 150%.
At
I
least
mean, you know?
and that's probably low. Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
there was a guy, I think it was Alex Hormozy I saw somewhere mentioning that he was, I don't know how strong the argument is, but he was arguing that the most successful businesses in the world are the ones with the most insane profit margins. So if you look at like Coke, Pepsi, Walmart, all these guys, they all have incredibly aggressive profit margins. And to an untrained business eye, it looks like greed, but it's so strongly correlated with the health and success of the business that it's really it's an interesting topic. It's made me a lot more aggressive in terms of going in terms of striving for profit. Yeah, no, it's I think it's yeah, like that fear of being accused of overcharging or ripping somebody off.
Well, I think too, in our industry as a whole, and it may be different in different parts of the country. I know it is. I network with people all over the country, but the, our industry as a whole is looked down upon.
Mm,
You're uneducated. You're the guy with the lawnmower in the back of his truck and the t-shirt and here's $30, go mow my yard. Like you shouldn't be making a profit. And so I
mm,
think there's this stigmatism that's like, for whatever the reason is, our industry shouldn't be making a profit like a plumber or an
right.
electrician. I mean, plumber comes to your house, dude, it's $150 an hour. And it's like,
Yeah.
they ain't leaving till you writing my check,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I can't help but feel that that's sort of an artifact or a result of maybe some sort of post-secondary education kind of thing coming in, where if you if you go to be trained as a plumber, they're going to drill it into you how valuable you are and how your accreditation and everything is so important. We don't have that in the landscaping industry. We don't really have anybody. That's part of why I'm doing this podcast, is to try and really push that message that we should be asking for prices to be able to pay living wages, and we should be asking for prices to have profits left over at the end of the day, so that when you lose your socks on a deal, maybe the other one covers it. You know, yeah,
Yeah.
it actually seems like a large. I don't know. It'd be interesting. I don't know how to calculate that, but it seems like a good percentage of the industry is kind of subsidized through bankruptcy. Um, you know, a
Yeah.
huge,
Yeah.
it's such a
No, I don't
low
think that's
barrier
wrong.
to entry. They come in, they get a bunch of
Yep.
loans, they build up to a certain point, and then eventually they burn out and and close down the business. And yeah, I wonder how much is perpetuated by that, by the government kind of, or the banks sort of kind of subsidizing these
Hmm.
low end fees, which then sort of perpetuates the idea that the low pricing makes sense because it's kind of hidden that it's being paid that in that backdoor sort of way. Yeah, really,
Yep.
really interesting. Hmm.
Yeah. I think,
So,
I mean, name another industry that's a lower margin industry. Like, what's a lower margin entry industry?
well, as somebody who does a lot of marketing, digital marketing has a pretty low barrier to entry.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm competing with guys all
But
around the world.
but the competition there is not like the landscape industry. Like if you went around town, your number of landscapers or people mowing, etc.,
Mm.
are way higher than people doing digital marketing. I would think. I mean, I could be wrong.
It's hard to compare apples and oranges a little bit, but it's just funny to me when people say that, because I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, there's guys who start marketing agencies with like an old phone, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know
Yeah.
if that, but it's true though. For local services, I can't think of anything that would be even close to that. And then also in terms of the types of businesses that people who don't have many resources to start, they're probably going to start mowing lawns or something like that before they would start a marketing business. So yeah, I see what you're
Yeah.
saying. Yeah, yeah. No, it's a real thing to compete with, and that's how I got started too. Like what was
Yeah.
it, 20 years ago, the neighbors going on vacation saying, "Hey, can you mow my lawn?" You know, that's how I got
Yeah.
started, and then
Yeah.
from
But
there
I mean, it works.
it worked. Yeah, well, without any margins there, but yeah, it worked. It works as a student
Yeah.
job, and then that's what I turned that into. I started the student franchises, and so I had a bunch of student franchisees, and it was an amazing summer job, but not something that you're going to live off of. So we were really that low baller also around then, where we'd be knocking on doors and saying, "You probably can't." like, you can trust us morally, but I don't know how much you can trust us as students, but you're
Yeah.
the cheapest in town. So get us to mow your
Yeah.
lawn. That was basically our pitch back then. But it's exactly the story that you're mentioning now was that business wasn't viable for non-students. It was just a summer job. And then
Yeah.
when I didn't want to work with students anymore one day when I was no longer a student, then things really changed. And then that's where I have I won't get into it now, but I have this whole story about how we doubled our prices one spring. And it was like, if nobody takes it, fine, we're shutting the business down. And if they do, then cool, let's see what happens. And it turned out that I think we lost about half the client base, but we were making the same profit. So it was
Yeah.
half the
I
work
mean,
and the
hey,
same money. And
yeah,
yeah.
that's the goal right there.
And the crazy
That's
thing there was how um there's this concept. It'd be neat to hear your opinion on that, especially seeing how high end of work you do, far beyond what I've ever done. But when we first started, we thought we knew the market that was out there because we were advertising and knocking on doors and everything, and we were attracting a certain market. Through the process of doubling those prices, we had to kind of justify why we were doubling the prices. And then what
Mhm.
we saw was who was interested in that justification and that they were willing to pay those prices. And so then what we did was we started putting all that, what we learned, into our marketing. And then all these doctors and lawyers and people who are willing to pay top dollar just started coming out of the woodwork. And there was like this entire market that existed that we didn't know existed simply because we weren't positioned to attract them. So while we think
Yep.
we know the market because we've been doing it for years and talking to everybody, it turns out that we only knew the market that we were able to attract. Like, have you
Yeah.
experienced that kind of thing?
100%. And I think a lot of that is growth in the business and quality work.
Mm,
Like if you do quality work and you treat the customer, and kind of what I was going to say a while ago, I think is there has been times you're like on a job, you're like, okay, we can either cut some corners right here and be profitable, or we're going to finish this job. Like even though we messed up on bidding it or whatever,
mm,
like we can cut some corners, make a little bit of money, or we can maybe break even and save reputation, put out a good product, know that this client or person, whoever is going to recommend us to the next person because they're our ideal client, whether it's from an occupation standpoint or neighborhood or, whatever the scenario is. Um, I think to get into whatever the niche market is, for some people, it's multifamily property maintenance. For some, it's industrial property maintenance, or for us, it's high end residential. And so, you know,
yeah. And I think that's one of the better ones.
performing that work,
Okay.
it's great.
I think that's one of the better ones for
Gotta,
margins too, right? Like the high end residential, just before
yeah,
you move on
I
to there.
would
Cause
say so.
yeah, but yeah, I
But
see
I
the
think it's
best
a double
price
edged sword,
elasticity.
though.
Okay. Yeah. What do you
Yeah.
think?
I mean, it's a double edged sword because I think the expectations and the margin for error is totally different in high end residential than it is in, say, multifamily or just general commercial property maintenance.
Right.
I
Okay,
mean,
so you're gonna be held to a higher standard. Yeah,
absolutely.
right. But you'll have better margins because 'cause you're not dealing with a property management company who's trying to squeeze it as hard as
Yep.
they can.
Yeah.
Right.
So again, you got to be able to handle the stress of higher end clientele, just in, the top 1% America. The expectations from that income level person is different
Mm,
than someone paying you back in the day $40 to mow their yard. Like they just
right,
cared if the yard was cut ish and blown off,
right. Yeah,
you know, whereas your high end residential client's going to pay you to say mow that yard, but like it better be an inch and 5/8 all the way across when they set the box laser up and run the laser across it.
Ah,
You know, so
yeah,
it's
right.
kind of you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, the margin's better because you're essentially taking the same amount of time, but you're going to have higher end equipment to perform the task,
Mm,
better trained personnel, and be ready to take a phone call and address it and, whatever the situation is.
yeah. You mentioned, you mentioned doing really high quality work. Is that the best strategy that you could think of for attracting that kind of work? Or was there anything that you did to stimulate referrals, or was there anything you did in your marketing that made a big difference there for for kind of moving upstream in the quality of work that you were doing?
Um, so I'm gonna touch on marketing first, and
Okay.
I'm gonna back up. But marketing until 6 years ago, never did any paid marketing, zero whatsoever, 100% word of mouth. Till we almost tripled the size of the business, no marketing.
Right. And so to triple took how long without marketing?
Eh, 4 years.
Okay. Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, in 4 years when I came back, we went from 6 employees to like 34. We kind of
Wow.
backed down a little bit. Yeah, it was like rocket ship,
A and is that's mostly referrals or pure referrals then?
pure
And
referrals.
and then, was the only strategy for generating referrals just doing really high quality work, or did you have more that you
Yep.
did to sort of ask people to do that?
Communicating, networking,
Mhm.
asking questions. Um,
Mm.
I remember I got my foot in the door with a builder early on, but then from him, like, I'm a communicator. Like, I like to talk to people. I like people. So it's like, you know, just talk to people. Like, hey, if you ever have a project coming up, like, let us know. We're doing this, we're doing that. And so
Okay.
just being available. Like, if
Mm.
somebody drives by the job site, like, I would intentionally maybe lurk out front in case they wanted to ask a question, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Hey,
Right,
we're in the right
okay.
neighborhood, but like, I know these people that live down the street hadn't quite finished their house yet, but in the afternoons, they'll get off work and they're going to come check out the progress on their 2, 3, $4 million house.
Mm.
So if I'm just lurking around the truck out front, just in case they want to, there's several times we picked up jobs like that.
Okay, wow.
Uh,
And so you're going out of your way to start conversations with these people. You aren't
oh yeah,
kinda
for sure.
head down and working like some guys,
No, yeah,
Yeah.
stand up and have a conversation. I mean, one of my best clients, I mean, for a long time, they're still one of our clients. Um, the Shell gas station at the
Okay.
Subway shop, like pumping gas.
Yeah.
Like I just moved the trailer up for him so he could get to the gas pump, and he asked what all we did, and I said, "Man, I'll be there in like 20 minutes. I'll give you an estimate."
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that's
Uh
18 years ago.
So for somebody who that doesn't come to naturally, what
Yeah.
would do you any tips or thoughts on that? Like, are you just saying hi to everybody? Do you have a particular conversation that you like to start? Are you talking about the weather or nothing? Anything
And
come
just
to mind?
anything. I'll just
Yeah.
say, "How's it going?"
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and it's evolved from that since then to where now we do have our foot in the door with the right network and people. My wife and I are both very social. We go to a lot of events. Um, I just think, and I get that doesn't come naturally to a lot of people. And some people, like, it may be just social media. Like,
Mm,
they may be more comfortable behind social media. I think you can pick up a lot of business that way. I
yeah.
mean, I just really, if you're in your target market, um, but I think to really target and grow a very niche business within the landscape industry, you or somebody in your team is gonna have to be comfortable talking to somebody and being
Right.
personable
Right.
and maintaining that relationship.
Yeah. And but also putting yourself in the position to have the conversations, right? So
Yeah.
like, but some I would say I'm one of the people that doesn't come supernaturally too.
Yeah.
So for me, I would need like some sort of targets to look for, maybe it's
Yeah.
going to a certain number of events per year or
Yep.
I'll make myself do things, like next time I see somebody at the gas station, I'm going to say hi to them, I'll do that sort of thing. But
So
yeah.
I don't remember who this was that told me this. It is somebody in our industry, and if they listen to this, they can chime in or comment and say it was them. But somebody I networked with several years ago gave me this example. It's brilliant. Uh, Same scenario, like they knew their target, high end residential. Okay, what do they drive in your area? For him, it was like okay, they're all driving like a Range Rover or a Jaguar or whatever. So he goes to the Range Rover dealership. Not like there's like 10 in the city. There's usually like one,
Yeah.
and works a deal out. He's like, hey, here's the deal. We're going to construct an outdoor kitchen, free, totally free. All we ask is, hey, once a month, we want you to invite your clients for an open house. You showcase your cars. Food's on us. We're coming to cook. He said he picked up almost $3 million in business on that.
Cool. Neat.
Don't have to be super personable to do that. It doesn't even have to be you, but it's like, hey, we your name's on it. You're there, like open house.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get a bunch of just tire kickers showing up to the open house at the Jaguar
Probably
Range Rover
not.
dealership on a
Yeah.
Saturday, you know?
Yeah, yeah. That
So
is
just thinking
brilliant.
outside the box, like, I think is huge. We, uh, we found opportunities in just our local area. They had some things on the news where they would do DIY stuff once a week or just like educational seasonal stuff. Like there would be a heat and air guy on there talking about cleaning your air ducts or this or, that. I did that a few times. Doesn't cost anything. Granted,
Hmm.
somebody's got to be comfortable being on camera, but you know, it's 30
Yeah.
minutes. It's free. I don't know how many people watch the news at 4 o'clock
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people, I mean,
Hmm.
enough that, your name is like kind of relevant in front of people.
Mhm.
So I think there's some things like that that people can do that you don't have to be comfortable just like blindly walking up to somebody at the gas station or whatever. But I do
Right.
think being like presentable, not in a cutoff shirt and cutoff
Yeah.
shorts, flip
Right.
flops, like dress presentable so that if there
Yeah.
is the opportunity where like you run into somebody, oh, better lawn. Okay, so what do y'all
Yeah.
do? I
Yeah,
mean,
your
it
shirt
was
looked great.
surprise.
I like that a
Yeah,
lot.
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Carhartt, not sponsored, but that's some free marketing for them.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, no, they're
It's
really
great.
nice. Yeah, was it a local company that embroidered it, or did you do it was it a
Yeah.
online
Yeah, no,
thing?
we got a
Okay.
local company that does it for like $10 a shirt.
Wow, yeah, no, they look
We
great.
just buy
Really nice.
The Carhartt shirts, yeah. But I
Yeah,
mean,
cool.
somebody's gonna be more apt to like walk up to somebody that's dressed presentable, stepping out of a clean vehicle,
Mhm. Yeah.
you know, and we take a lot of pride in keeping our trucks clean.
Mhm.
I mean, you never know when somebody's like customer's gonna walk out and want to talk to you at the truck. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
and we do. I see people all the time in town like, man, I see your trucks all over town. I'm starting to think, well, I only got like 7 or 8 or whatever. Like,
Yeah,
you didn't
right.
see that many of them, but they're just noticeable.
Yeah, right, well, they don't know how many there are, they just see them all the time, yeah.
They just see them.
Yeah, yeah, really cool.
So,
So you started off, with word of mouth and went really far with that. What was it eventually that motivated you to start doing more than that?
so once we kind of got to a point, the only other thing we've ever done and still do is there's one local magazine called At Home in Arkansas. We advertise with them. I think it's every other month, so 6 times a year. Um, and then I do social media, and I literally have not hardly posted on social media in the last year because it has been incredibly insane. And I have 2 children under the age of 3. And just work has been so busy. I just hadn't had time to. And I tried having someone else post for a little bit. I just think it just disconnects me with my client. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
it's not as
just,
personable. If it's
yeah.
somebody in the company that it can work pretty well, but outside the company, it's hard.
So that's all we did. But the reason in doing specifically the magazine was like, it targets our ideal customer for the most part.
Right.
And it is in front of everybody consistently, the statistics of the viewership, and they end up featuring a lot of our projects.
Okay, nice.
It just so that doesn't cost anything when they do feature. We're running ads with them, and so we get a feature here and there. It's great. Um, then we can kind of pump that a little bit on social media, but that is the only marketing we do outside of our vehicles, and, teams
Right.
and shirts and all that.
And quality of work and all that. Do you have
Yeah,
any process for asking for referrals, or do you not?
I really don't even.
No.
I mean, I really don't, but it's shocking. Like we have sitting here right by all of it. We have these like sheets that our staff fills out when there's an incoming call. And like one of the things on it's like, how did you hear about us? I bet if I look through this whole stack of people from this week, it's either somebody told them or it says at home,
Right.
current customer at home, current customer, referral from current customer at home, saw you in a magazine, referral from hairstylist,
Right.
my wife's
Uh-huh.
hairstylist. So
Okay, I was gonna say you got a good connection at
yeah,
the
yeah.
salon.
So, I mean, I routinely see kind of what the referral is. Like, very seldom is it, "Oh, we just typed it in Google."
Hmm, yeah, yeah. It probably there's there's a cause and effect there, because if you're not running much on Google, then that wouldn't be coming
Yeah.
from Google. But yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah.
But
So
I don't think that happens for someone right out of the gate. Like, you're not going
right.
year 2 in business and having that sort of referrals. Yeah, I think that's possible. But, it takes building a reputation, and I think you gotta protect the reputation.
Yeah, yeah. That's something that I do with my clients as well, is we do reputation management, and we'll actually engineer their reputations through asking
Mhm.
for referrals, asking for testimonials, following up
Yep.
for reviews, all that kind of stuff. And it does you can let it happen naturally, and it works really well. But when you engineer it, you can kind of like ramp it up even more. But
Yeah.
so, which is more important for smaller businesses with less resources, because you can kind of you can save a lot of time by, I don't want to say forcing it, but by like engineering it, by planning for it, by trying for
Mhm.
it. Yeah. So first growth was from there. Now it's from there. It sounds like you have a lot of momentum in the business where you can kind of just keep it going. When you look at your projections and your growth, and I realize we're running out of time here, so I'll try to start heading towards
I hear you.
the end of our
I'm good
questions
on
here.
my end. I don't know what you have as far as
Oh,
on
okay,
your end.
great. Yeah, I have
Yeah,
some more
I'm
time. I
good.
just want to be respectful of your time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
So
I'm good.
so Um, when you're projecting, a lot of guys are trying to ask, should I be hiring people or should I be getting more work? And it's a little bit of a beginner question, because obviously the answer is both at the same time. How do you approach that when you're projecting next year's growth? Are you just simply taking the last year's growth and projecting straight out from that? And then are you hiring relative to that? Or how are you planning for when you need to hire new staff relative to how big the company will be and the work you'll be doing? How do you think about that kind of stuff?
Um, I'll answer this 2 different ways. I feel like a lot of guys will probably relate to this. I did it differently 2 years ago than I do it now.
Hmm,
So, like, pre-COVID was totally different than how I have to think about it now. And I usually take and look at our sales from the previous year, years past. You look at the sales, I'm like, okay, 2019, 2020, we grew X percent. Year before that, X percent. It's usually pretty consistent unless you've had some dramatic like event or sale or project. And so I project based on that. I will try to squeeze a little growth out of the same number of people
hmm,
and look at, okay, we're going to improve some efficiencies here or not do this type of project and try to find more lighting job, which would be one for us that is a great margin, can be done with less people. And so I look at it that way a little bit. After the last 2 years, I'm actually trying to plateau a little bit and increase the bottom line. So we're really
okay.
focused on improving efficiencies. So that was last year and this year. And even last year, we still had like crazy growth.
Yeah, okay.
But a lot of
Th-
that was because we actually subcontract some of our work and we had a few large pool projects that really push that top line number up. But even still, it's growth and it's projects that are being managed. So really trying to like kind of stay there because with the number of vehicles and assets that I have, I really can't push much over where we're at right now. And don't know that I want to. I think it just gets increasingly more difficult. Like I feel like I'm in a sweet spot. Even like
yeah,
$500,000 less in gross sales than where we were. I feel like it's a sweet spot for our market. Now,
right. Yeah.
different market, I think it's totally different.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, that's really interesting. It
think,
sounds a lot like the way bodybuilders think about it, with growing and
yeah,
eating, So you grow up, you
yep,
bulk up, and then maybe it's a little fatty, and then you lean back
hmm
down and keep the muscle, and then grow back up again.
yep.
But
This is exactly trim the fat.
yeah, why do you think that you're in a sweet spot? Or what's sweet about it, or however you want to word that?
Yeah. I think we're just big enough where I can maintain a personal touch with all of our clients. I
Okay.
can personally be available if I need to,
Right.
but I think we're big enough to where we can perform some work and me not have to at all go to the job. And I have the ability to have field staff and personnel in place that can handle some of those things for me. I think it's really tough to ever get to size landscape business where you're not involved as a family owned business in a small market.
Hmm.
Um,
Interesting. Yeah.
I mean, you can. I just, for me and what we're trying to do with high end residential, a lot of the appeal is the direct, like a lot of people in our market are paying for me to
Hmm.
come out, interact with me, and not just be like, hey, you're pissed off.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
I meet
Yeah.
with almost all of our customers. So I mean, from that standpoint and from a profitability standpoint.
Right. No, I like the way you answered that because you answered it in a way that it was relative to kind of your needs as a human, actually, it sounds like, as opposed to
Yeah.
just the company's needs. I think a lot of people will look at it purely from business and it's like businesses always must grow. If you're not growing, you're dying. You've heard that. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but then again, like, what's the point of growing a business if it's not here to serve us personally, right? And
Yeah.
that's something that I find a lot of guys lose track of, where they put their business before themselves for so long that they forget that the point of it is to even be for themselves at the end of the day. That it's
Yeah.
to serve,
100%.
it's a means to an end to a nice life. There is a divide. I've seen a lot of guys will I mean, a lot of guys will say, "Oh, lifestyle business, it's not a real business, blah, blah, blah." I don't agree with that. Um, th th I don't think that sometimes that makes sense if it's a very small business. I also don't agree with, um, sort of being a chuck in a truck, what some people call it, where you have to do
Yeah.
everything, and if you get hurt, the whole thing falls apart. That's not a safe spot to be.
Yeah.
But also, I'll see guys on the other end of it where they build something that's so much bigger than themselves that it becomes really different actually. In fact, that's it's kind of like the nemesis business in the industry a lot of the time. And it's part of what got me into the industry at all was looking around and seeing these sort of companies that are just so big that that's the only reason why they exist because 'cause they're not very good. Like, nobody really is very happy
Yep.
with them, and there is no personal touch like what you're describing because it's probably too big for that,
Mhm.
and it kind of becomes about it's kinda like Walmart, like we mentioned already, but it kinda becomes just about money and profit, and then the heart of the business kinda goes away, and with that,
Yeah.
profits start to erode, and those are exactly the kind of businesses that I'm going after today because they're so easy to compete with. We can steal their market share, no problem with it's like I think what attracted me to it is sort of the David and Goliath sort of aspect to it, where we can
Mhm.
empower these little tiny guys to lead with their hearts and be personable and not hide behind their logo and maybe put a video of themselves saying, "Hi, this is me" on the homepage of their site. And we can get better margins and be extremely competitive against these kind of big old crusty businesses that are kind of
Yep.
losing touch. So I sort of see where you've gotten well past the point of being chuck in a truck where you can delegate and have other people come in and keep things going if you're sick or want to take a vacation.
Mhm.
Um, but you're also having gone past that level to where it becomes, I don't want to say corporatized, but you kind of know what I mean, where it's more
Yeah. Yeah.
more about money than it is about people, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, and we don't want that. I mean, it is about people. It's about our customers. It's about our staff. I mean, when you
Right.
got, when we're fully staffed, 30 some odd people that, you know, rely on this business to feed their family.
Yeah, right.
And
Yeah,
that's a huge responsibility. I mean,
absolutely.
start breaking that down, like, or make some sales, get some stuff in the books.
Yeah,
We're
but and,
like,
but
come on.
but I'll also build a business that's nice to work for. So, do you
Yeah.
care to comment on that? I'm sure you figured out ways along the road of making your business a place that people actually want to work. I know a lot of people in the
Yeah.
landscaping industry complain a lot about not being able to find anybody who wants to do this kind of work anymore. How do you feel about that?
Um, I think that's true to an extent. We're involved with the H-2B program. So we have H-2B visas. So 15 of our staff actually hopefully will be here in the next week or so.
Mm,
And they come over from Guatemala every year for the seasonal aspect of our business.
mhm.
Local staff, we have about the same amount of people. And most of those people have been with us uh, for a while. I mean, my main uh, property maintenance foreman, he's been with the company since day one. So almost 20 years.
Mm.
Uh,
Wow.
yeah, which is, I mean, you don't even hear that a lot in just any business anymore.
In any industry. Yeah.
Yeah, any industry. So I think that we treat our staff, I would like to think I would say that we do. I think we do well. I think we pay at or above um, our market averages. I mean, I'm in tune with what my competition is paying their people.
Mhm.
I'm in tune with what my competition is doing. Um, you know, I'm extremely lenient until you
Hmm.
take advantage. Like I
Okay.
don't have these and I just think the way I look at it, it's like I hire you, like, okay, here's your job, like you're doing this, whatever that is, you're a foreman on our landscape crew. Like we come in at 7, we start at 7, we're done at 4:30, Monday through Friday.
Mhm.
Like you got a kid, you got school party, whatever. Like I don't want you missing that, but I'm not like forcing you to take vacation to do that. I mean,
Mm.
just communicate with me and tell me, hey, I need 2 hours in the middle of the day. Like we just communicate about that as a team. And there's times when it's like the job site's 2 miles from school. Like, dude, leave the guys at the job site, go over to the school, do your thing in the truck. Like we're not going back and forth. And
Yeah.
um, I just think you can get to corporate in a family business or in a small business where it becomes unappealing to work at. Now, I think there's
Right.
a fine line. You got to be careful on people taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
Um,
I want to know more how you do that.
yeah, watch it. I mean,
Okay.
so me and my dad, like we're in tune with it. I mean, I have notes on, most of your staff, most of our staff that you'll find, I think, in this industry wants to work. Hmm.
Yeah.
The majority of them, like if they're doing this, they want to work or need to work, need the money.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's typically not an issue. But I think if you're in tune with your team, you'll know that you have to watch out for. In fact, it's
Right.
just being aware of your surroundings and self-aware. You know, if
Could you
you're
give me
never,
some examples just so I can I'm a
yeah,
real detail guy. I'm gonna keep asking that. But yeah, like how do you
just
if you don't know what you're doing, and how would you avoid maybe some of the mistakes that you made, or what were some learning lessons that you tripped over to be able to be good at this?
yeah. I mean, I can think back of some former employees that actually don't, know, are no longer employed here that took advantage of the situation. And looking back, it's like, you know, keeping a better record at when somebody does say, "Hey, I got court, I need to be off this morning," or "I got to take my daughter to whatever, dentist or doctor." Like, just keep a record of that. Like,
Mm,
I mean, I do it in notes on my phone now, and you'll find that it's not every employee. You'll have just a few. If you feel like it's every employee, I think you need to reevaluate your staff. But I think, as a whole, once you keep track of it, if you go back and looked at it every few weeks, if somebody's taking advantage, there's going to be a pattern.
right. What kind of
100%.
what kind of threshold would you be looking for? Is it just to make it super tangible? Is somebody's asking for time off every month? Is that too often or?
Yeah. No, I don't think it's too often. If it's just like if it was once a month, but it's
Mm,
typically not taking a
mm,
full day off. It's like, hey, I need to come in late or I need to leave early.
right.
It's typically what I've seen in the past when somebody's trying to take advantage. If somebody's missing a whole day, like, I mean, there is times when I could patterns. I'm like, okay, but every full day you missed is a Monday,
Right.
or
Yeah.
every full day, like we either got some,
Yeah.
then we'll just have a conversation. And I'm pretty blunt. I'm like, I'll have a conversation with my team. Like, hey man, you missed work like for the last 5 Mondays. Are we making
Yeah.
some bad decisions on the weekend? Or are you doing something else? I mean,
Yeah. Right.
and say, just having the conversation with him and not letting it just draw out. Like, if you start thinking that there's something, like, have a conversation
Right.
and have an
Okay.
open conversation.
Hmm.
Um, they, they have their vacation that we give. Everybody gets paid time off depending on how long you've worked here. Um, we provide insurance, health insurance. Uh, we have a nice facility. Uh, we're right, easy access, right in the middle of town. We do stuff periodically in the summer when we, start hot and heavy. I drop off Gatorade, or they'll get, we'll do some meals here and there. Um,
Nice. Do
but
you do the meals on the job, or do you do them? The question I'm curious about is whether or not they're on. Are they on your time or their time? If you're doing
not
extra,
my
like,
time.
yeah, okay, good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my time. Like, I'll just take pizza out to the job. No,
Mm.
once or twice a year, we'll do, hey, everybody come in early. We're gonna have a big, like, when our visa workers get here, we'll do like a Friday. We'll work half a day. They'll all get here, clock out, and we'll just have a big feast, barbecue or something. Just
Yeah,
to kind of
nice.
kick the season off. And then the same thing when they go back. But
Right.
just periodically during the year, I mean, you can pick up Little Caesars and or whatever, Pizza Hut, and show up at the job site with $20 worth of pizza. I mean, it
Yeah.
goes a long ways. It just being appreciative of what these guys are doing, and girls, and we have a lot of women on staff.
Oh, nice. Yeah. How
Uh,
I'm just gonna keep asking details here. How often would you say you show up with pizza? Just or would you want to be showing up, or whatever?
yeah, I mean, I do like probably 2 or 3 times during the growing season, like during our
Okay.
busy part of the year. Uh,
Okay.
I don't have any set schedule to it. It's like sporadic,
No, I
which
know.
I
I'm
think
just
is
trying to get a
nice.
feel for somebody
Yeah.
who isn't who hasn't experienced with this kind of thing. Are they bringing it every week or every month, or? But yeah, no. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, show
And
up with
then
Gatorade, or like I'll grab the ice. You get the huge bag of those ice pops,
yeah,
like
yeah,
Sam's or Walmart or wherever, you know what I'm talking about? The frozen
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
I throw them in the freezer, like, you have a couple hundred of those for like $5 or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Just stuff like that, man. I mean, it seems silly, but uh,
No,
I
it's
know.
like not silly. It's the least silly thing almost for the whole business to be
Yeah.
working, right? It's really important.
Mhm.
I think a lot of guys miss it. And I don't think it's because they don't want to look after their staff. It's just that they're not sure what to do. That's why I'm asking these really specific
Yeah.
questions.
Or they're so
Yeah.
busy. I've been there. You're so busy, you
Right.
don't even think about it. And,
Right.
I've got an operations manager and a kind of a lead foreman that they got free reign. They got a card. And so, like, I know there's times they'll, like,
Okay.
just buy the guy's lunch
Yep.
that I'm
Nice.
not even aware of. Like, I'll see it, like, when a receipt comes through or something. Like, oh, cool. I guess we got McDonald's today, or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, so,
What?
not always coming from the owner or
Right.
manager or whatever, I think goes a long ways too with a lot of your, you know, labor.
That's a good point. Yeah. No. What kind of behavior would you not tolerate? So, I imagine that when people are asking for time off, they're hopefully letting you know ahead of time, or unless they're sick at the last second or something. If it, what kind of behavior would be immediately like? What would you not stand for at all? Just to give somebody listening the idea for
I
that.
mean, obviously any kind of substance abuse on the on the job. Like, I don't care what you do on the weekend, but you better show up sober on Monday morning and be
Right.
that way. I have a real low threshold for being late.
Okay. Okay.
That's just me personally. I do not do well with it. It's like, some of my staff, they'll just kind of, I'm like, just deal with them today. Like, I'm going to fire them. And they're like, he was 2 minutes late and he hadn't been late. And, I'm like, he's all yours.
Interesting.
Um,
Right. And the team probably knows this, that you feel this way?
oh yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
pretty clear.
Yeah.
I mean, I've sent guys home from job sites in that Uber before.
Okay. For being late?
So, um, for not working,
Okay. For
being
not
lazy,
okay. How do you
sitting down
evaluate
on the
that?
phone.
Okay. So they're just, Yeah, like I've struggled with that. Like it's been a long time since I ran my business. I've been doing the supporting the industry for like 10 years since then. But when I was in it, there was poor guys on their first day, you know. There's guys that have cried, there's guys that have thrown up, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
It's tough. I mean,
Yeah, but like, yeah, how do you know whether? I guess you know if they're just tired, or if you need to give them a break, or if they're just being lazy. I guess you can figure that out pretty quickly. Yeah.
you can figure out pretty quick. Um, knowing what a group can produce in a day. I mean, if I go by or I mean,
Right.
nowadays, man, people have everyone's watching all the time.
Mm.
Everybody's got cameras on their houses. I mean,
Mhm.
somebody's always watching. And I
True.
remind them that, like,
Yeah.
somebody's always watching. Like, I've had times before when, I mean, I can think of an instance in the last year where I had a customer call and be like, man, I'm not paying y'all by the hour, am I? No way. Okay, well, because if I am, I'm deducting for so and so that's over here hasn't done anything in 3 hours. I was like, I'll be right
Right.
there. If
Okay.
you roll up, and then, of course, you get that. Well, I've been working all the time. What? It's a camera. We can watch the footage back, or me and you can have a conversation. You know,
Uh, yeah, that's tough.
it's just stuff like that that you just have to deal with. That I don't think, unfortunately, nowadays, I think things are a lot different with access to phones, and everybody's got social media, and everybody, uh, I don't think overall as a country the work ethic is the same as it was 20 years ago. And so I think there's some of those things that it's part of running a business now is dealing with some of that
Yeah.
and figuring out you as the business owner personally, like what is your threshold? Like my threshold's different than probably somebody who is owner operating and has one helper in a truck.
A lot of them don't have a
You
choice.
know,
They don't have time to hire anybody else, so they're stuck with who they have. Yeah.
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 And so that threshold's a little different than me who has like 30 people running around. Like, yeah, I'm sure that I mean, there's a lot of days where group A is probably not producing the same as group B, but I mean, you drive yourself crazy trying to get the same production out of everybody all the time.
Yeah, that's
And,
tough.
we found that one strategy to all that is we're very, very creative and selective on who's working with who and on what jobs.
Hmm.
We figured that
How do
out
you
in the
do that?
last year.
Yeah. But how's that
Kind of
work?
evaluate personalities, observe, a lot of observation
Mm.
between me and a couple of my key staff guys. Like we'll just watch. And if you just know people or in tune with people and observing like work ethics, personalities, like who's communicating well together, what's this guy's strength, what's that guy's strength. This guy's way better at cutting in on pavers. This guy's way, way better at laying stone edging for, side jobs. Like then knowing what the next job is, like not only mixing them up from a skill standpoint, but it breaks up the monotony of you know, guy 1, 2, and 3 is so used to being in the truck together, they've gotten in this rhythm where
Right.
guy 1 does all the work, and guy 2, like, kinda talks about it, and guy
Yeah.
3 is just like, "I'll get something out of the truck."
Right. Yeah.
So you
I'll
put people
never.
that don't work together normally, they just like well, suddenly nobody knows who's supposed to be doing something that they're all gonna try to do.
Interesting.
So you
So
gotta work a little
you
harder to kinda figure out
right. So they're not set crews. There's no set teams, really.
yes and no.
Right.
I mean, we'll start out with a set team, but then we'll move some people around.
Really neat.
And they'll take
Really.
yeah. And you may get a team, like we had a team last year that they worked together the entire year. We're like,
Right.
I can look at what's on the schedule and what's upcoming. Like, okay, we need like an A team on these 5 jobs, most difficult or whatever the scenario is.
Mhm. Right. I guess
Uh,
if it's working, you can keep them together. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Right. I'll never forget. I had a
Uh,
boss tell me that I couldn't trade shifts with somebody at the one job I ever had at the grocery store. And I like, why? Why can't they want my shift? I want their shift. Why can't we trade? And I couldn't believe she told me this. It was near the end of my job at this place because she said something like, we have to put you with them because we know that because they don't do any work. And I know if we put them with you, that the stuff will be finished by the end of the day. So she was basically saying, you can't switch shifts because nobody will do any of the work if you switch to that other shift. Or, some I'm not wording it very well, but yeah,
Yeah.
basically saying you're the one who does all the work. So we have to put you with the people who don't do any work, or else nothing's gonna happen. And it was like, I think I might be done here.
Yeah. Like, I'm leaving. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, yeah.
Crazy. I think thinking outside the box and being creative with a lot of that stuff. And I mean, I'm not afraid to hire somebody based on personality and
Yeah,
reputation.
that's what I wanted to ask next is how you think about hiring in this sense, and how do you gauge whether they'll be a good team member or not ahead of time, and then what kind of process do you have for testing them?
None. Like, just really, I mean, honestly, like the stuff we do in our market is so niche. People ask me, so who's your biggest competition? Like, I mean, I guess like in this little portion of our business, it might be this guy.
Hmm,
Like on this little portion, it may be this guy, but like somebody that calls us once this full outdoor living space. They don't really have, there's no one else that's really willing to take the whole thing on or can
hmm,
take on multiple. And so we're teaching whoever comes on anyways.
right.
Like they're not typically, I'd be shocked if somebody walked in here like, hey man, I can lay pavers and do landscape and irrigation. And I can lay this job out for you and pour and pour concrete if I need to. And
Right.
like, it's just not there. So I'd
And
rather hire on,
I'm happy you're saying this because I get a lot of guys saying, "There's no experienced people out there. How do I find experienced people?"
you're not going to, you don't need them. Well, why do you need them? Like, is their experience the same experience and work quality that you're performing? It's almost worse to me if somebody comes in with experience because I don't know where they could have worked with experience that's going to meet our standards
Mm,
or
mm,
do whatever the way we want to do. It's just not going to happen.
right.
Hey, it's great if they've started a lawnmower before or whatever.
Yeah.
But even if he comes in and is like, dude, I've mowed for like this 5 years. I went on your maintenance crew. Like, okay, I'm still not turning you loose day one without like some coaching.
Right. Would you
Like,
hire
cause you're
somebody with
mowing and
no experience? If they
100% do all the
okay.
time.
Oh, so, I'm trying to get a feel for the threshold. What if they've never worked outside? Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If are you a good fit? Are you got your record, able bodied? Can you perform the task? Do you have a good attitude? Are you able to show up on time? Sure.
Nice.
60-day trial. Let's go.
Okay. And so I'm sorry, it cut out just for the second that you said the length of the trial. How does the trial work?
60.
60 days.
Yeah.
Okay, really
60.
long. Okay, okay. Some guys do like a week or something. So you'd probably let them go sooner than that if you knew right away that they weren't a good fit. Yeah.
You'll typically know after a month or
Okay.
sooner.
So you give them a month. And then how does that work? Do you just throw them in with the team and then they just kind of follow along, or do you take them aside and do specific training? Do you use any kind of like materials or videos or anything, or
That's an area it's one area that I need to improve on. It's been on my like back burner. It needs to come to the front burner. But right now we have kind of a select foreman on each side of the business where like new guy comes on, hey, you're gonna go with him for a little while. Like he's made with us for 20 years. Like he can show you what we need to do. Or on our landscape construction side, like I've got a couple guys who are really good teachers in the field. Um, and I will typically tell them like, hey, to so and so, you don't have any experience, like, and know that hey, we need somebody that can whatever mix mortar, cut pavers, mulch, stuff like that. Like, so I'll give them like, hey, really want you to show them how to mulch today.
right?
So they kind of get an understanding of some basic skills. And I'll get feedback from the guys. Like that they're not going to let somebody come on and work that is dragging the whole situation down.
Right. Yes.
I mean, if you're the foreman and the producer, like you got two great guys on your team, and I'm like, okay, hey, Juan's going over here, and Jim's coming on with you because he just started.
Mhm.
And you see, Jim ain't no count. Like, foreman's not going to put up with that for very long. Or he's like, hey, dude,
Right.
give me my guy back. You know,
Right.
again, putting the right people with the right people can kind of like self correct the situation or weed out, trim the fat.
Right. I really like that because a lot of times the owner will be taking sort of responsibility for the training. And then I think they're kind of biased because they also have to find somebody else if it doesn't work out. Versus if you separate those two
Yep.
responsibilities, then you'll have that person say, nah, we shouldn't do this. I don't want to deal with it because they don't have
Mhm.
the responsibility of having to replace them. So they're happier to complain about it or to not allow that.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. When you're hiring somebody, do you typically have a specific responsibility for them that you want them to fill, or you kind of um you're gonna bring them on and then see where you can place them once they're on board?
I will typically, not typically, I will always know if I'm hiring them for like our maintenance side of the business or our landscape construction side of the business when
Right.
I'm hiring them. Then from there, no, mate, I think again, in like a week or two of being out there, like I will usually get some feedback like, hey, this guy can't walk in a straight line with a weed eater, or this guy's great on a push mower, or whatever the situation is, or
Right.
like this guy can't stand up straight. I'm like, all right, well, he's got to go.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And then kind of back to the origin of this topic was how do you know when you need to hire somebody? It's obviously if you lose somebody, that's obvious. But in terms of uh matching team growth to company growth,
Yeah.
do you have a way that like is there some sort of trigger point, or I guess if you're starting to fall behind jobs, that could be an indicator, but that's a bit late. Like how do you think about that?
Yeah. One of the ways, and I don't have like this like clear metric on a piece of paper where I'm like, okay, we hit this dollar amount for this many people. Um, but I do think that for us, like we typically on I think it's different on both sides of the business. On our landscape construction side, we're consistently like 6 to 8 weeks out. Like if I look at my schedule and we're 6 to 8 weeks out, when that starts like growing, then I think that becomes a trigger point where we look, okay, we either got to add another truck. I mean, right now it's like I'm selling for 4 production crews. So as long as all those seats are full, that's good.
Mhm.
And that stays 6 to 8 weeks out. Now, once that starts growing, I look at the calendar, like, okay, now we're 12 weeks out, 15 weeks out, 20 weeks out. Is that like, you just got to look at it. Like, is that a seasonal thing? Is some of this going to squash down real quick? Or am I getting that many more leads, that many more sold jobs? But then before I even think about hiring 3 more people and buying a new truck, because obviously
Yep.
all those things come when you do that, it's, is that going to maintain? Am I going to be able to consistently sell that much more work? And in the last year and a half, 2 years, what I've gone back to is okay, we just need to raise prices.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and it still hasn't changed. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
so on the maintenance side, we've got three three trucks on the road with that doing property maintenance. And again, if all the seats are full, great. We know what they can produce. What we know how many properties they can do in a week's time. There's only 7 days in a week. We work 5, sometimes 6 during like spring crazy season. The maintenance guys will have to, or if we get rained out. But if we start selling more properties and getting more lead calls, like we know that our week is full with 3 crews. It's the same thing. It's like, okay, we got to add another truck to sell these many more properties. So then we always go back to, okay, if we're going to kind of go down that road, we're going to squeeze a few more on the crews we got, but we're going to raise the price on these bits from what we normally
Yep.
would.
Yeah.
And so,
Makes sense.
if this is normally $1,000 a month, maybe it's 1,200 or 1,300 or whatever the situation is. And then if it sells and we do that a few times, okay, then is it worth? Yeah. Okay. It's worth it.
Right.
Uh,
Yes, those step functions that you have to prepare for. So yeah, you kind of charge up and then
yeah,
yeah, and then you can get past them if you want to, like you already said, if it's worth
if you want to.
yeah, if you even want to add a whole nother piece on. Yeah, and then keep operating at that volume from there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Neat.
because then you get to that point, you gotta think about more management staff,
Mhm.
more internal support staff.
Yeah.
So all those thresholds, I think you start bumping some certain dollar amount to sales. It's like, man, you gotta add like in-house accounting, different things. It's like now the sudden like, oh dude, now I gotta like grow 2 to 3 million more a year. I'm
Right.
out.
Yeah. Yeah, not worth it right now. Yeah, better just to improve margins for a while longer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Neat. So, um, there's a lot of guys who are gonna really appreciate hearing your thoughts on this and seeing how you figure these things out and how you think about them and how you approach it. Is there anything else that comes to
Yeah.
mind that you might want to share with somebody following in your footsteps? Maybe a motivation
Man.
or a problem that we didn't discuss that would help them or anything that you could do to help bring up the next guy behind us.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, and this is from me, me learning the hard way some in the past too, but like put your family ahead of your business. I mean, like just do. Like I don't know any way to say that. Like um, it's easier said than done sometimes. I've been there, but yeah, you got to work hard at your business. But man, put your family first. Like take a vacation, take some time off. Like you got to recharge, or you are just gonna go down
You know, put
down a
yourself
hole.
first. Yeah.
Yeah, put yourself first. Your health, I mean, all that. I think it's I think it is extremely important, whatever it looks like, to network.
Hmm.
Like you can get on an island in this business. Dude, one of my best networking, however you want to word it, assets or people is one of my largest competitions 3 miles from me down the road.
Okay. And
Talk all
how
the
did
time.
yeah. Why are they the
He's
best?
one of my best got to be one.
Because they
He
refer a
gets
lot
it,
or
man. And we do a ton of business together, like
Mhm.
refer a lot to each other. Our businesses are a little bit opposite. He's heavier commercial, I'm heavier residential.
Mhm.
And we just there's work out there for everybody. We just have a mutual understanding. Like literally yesterday, I had a commercial property email me like, "Hey, I want to bid for this." I looked
Mhm.
at it, I was like, "Man, I swear that's so and so's property. I swear
Mhm.
they do it." So I just picked the phone. "Hey, man, is this y'all's property?" He said, "Yep." I said, "All right. Well, I just got a bid invite on it." I said, "I'm not gonna bid it. I just wanted to make sure." So, what's
Okay.
the story? He said, "Oh, I had to raise the rate. Obviously, just cost of operations went up. And I hadn't in 3 or 4 years." He said, "I'm sure they're putting a bid out." He said, "Here's what I bid. If you want to bid it just to, be whatever." He said, "Just this is what I bid if you want to bid around that." Because we
Right.
just know we're not going to steal work from each other. But at the same time, we can call and have a conversation like, dude, I'm having a horrible time like collecting from this vendor or from this client or,
Mhm.
dealing with this with an employee or, what would y'all do? We talk
Hmm.
all the time. Like,
Okay.
I
So
just think,
it's a friendly relationship beyond just business then
oh,
where you
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Nice.
Yeah. I
That's how you
mean,
build those, I guess, is by having personal connection with people. Yeah.
yeah. And I think too, outside of your market, if you can find somebody to bounce stuff off of or go see their business, man. I've been in towns before, just like traveling with my wife. Like we'll go weekend getaways. Yeah, we'll go for the weekend, through the weekend. I like look up at high-end residential landscape. Literally, we'll type it into Google
Mhm.
and like, "Hey, man, y'all open on Saturday?" David with Better Lawns and Gardens. I'm literally in town for the weekend. I was just curious. I come see your shop.
Hmm.
Dude, 9 times somebody called me like, "Heck yeah, dude, come on."
Yeah, yeah. Really nice.
I mean, just networking, I think, is a big thing. You're going to learn a lot, especially if you're just starting your business. Like, learn from somebody like me or somebody else out there that's already screwed up 30 times. Don't like let it be our mistake and you fix it on your
Definitely.
there's just a lot you can learn from
Yeah.
people that you just ask.
Right.
Like we're not like I don't have like the trade secrets to the NASA space station or anything. And we're just you're working. Like we just figured small stuff out and done stuff the right way and the wrong way. And people like that all over the country that'll be more than willing to share with you. So I think
Right.
that's a big thing. And man, I think the other thing is just do what you say you're going to do. Mhm. Whether it's to your employee or your customer, like if you say you're going to do it, do it.
Right.
You
Don't let
said you're
things
going to do
fall
this
through the
job for
cracks.
$10,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
You said you're going to do it for $10,000 and you signed the contract. Do the job.
Right.
Like, do it. If you told your employee you're going to give them a raise, like, give them the raise.
Mhm. Yeah.
If you told they could have a day off, wh- give them a day off. Like, just do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, yeah. If you say
Uh,
you're gonna get back to somebody, get back to them. Yeah.
Get back to them. Even if the
Yeah.
getting back to them is, and I've been guilty of that before in the past. I mean, you get so busy. And
Mhm.
a lot of times, especially during COVID, like, we're getting like 20, 30, 40 calls a day. That's hard to get back to people. Like,
Right.
even if the getting back to them is like, hey, I do not have time to do this,
Yeah.
that's better than
Then nothing.
that.
Yeah. Much better. Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Man, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing these ideas with me.
Yeah, man,
I've
for
really
sure.
enjoyed this, and I really appreciate you taking the
Yeah.
time.